Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, $3.98 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off 0.1. Bitcoin right now is 115,600 plus, Ethereum 4,300 plus, XRP $3.01. Now we're up 0.7 on the 24, but careful what we call progress. We're still off 4.4 on the 7-day. Take a look at the range of price here. Range between 298 and 310. Now I caught the dip yesterday at 297 or 298, whatever it was. I was tickled to death about it. So I'm glad that I got it. I hope everybody else was able to get that dip again overnight or early this morning, wherever you're at. I just think that, we're sitting in a moment right now where we know that Congress is out on session, right? Out of session. So they're on their summer break. They're getting ready to come back. And then we're getting ready to see a lot of work get done because having just the stablecoin bill is not enough, and they know it. And this isn't about getting all of us rich, by the way. This is about securing the dollar dominance in the new digital on-chain economy. Make no mistake about it. And everything else is watershed from there, right? So that's how I see it. So now let's get into this before we get started here today. It's U.S. hits highest layoffs since the COVID era. How about that? In July, there were 62,075 job cuts announced. And if you're one of them, and many more, but if you're one of them, I could just tell you right now, you're not out here. You're in. You could be using the iTrustCapital IRA right now and turning this negative impact into a positive, brilliant move from where I'm sitting, not financial advice. Listen, it's not just the best cryptocurrency IRA, it's the best crypto, gold, and silver IRA while we're talking about it, right? Get the tax advantages. Buy and sell crypto 24/7 in your back office. You've never been empowered like this, okay? It's low cost, no monthly fee. I'm telling you right now, look, let me just get down here and just give you the rundown here. Set up for your new IRA. Facilitate transfers, rollover contributions to fund your IRA. That's a 401k, 453, 457, all the rest of it. You can roll this over and maximize that negative impact of just having your job cut and roll into crypto, gold and silver, and you're going to have the empowerment of a back office to manage that and self-direct it the way you need to based on market trends. I got to tell you, what they've done here is just absolutely remarkable. And the market speaks very loudly. And you could see from all the amazing awards that they've won or the tons of incredible feedback here and testimonials of how happy everyone is, including me. I've been with them about 6 years. You should check them out. And once you do, then you're going to realize you also want a premium custody account, which is going to give you that same level of institutional grade custody, the award-winning US-based support with low cost and a no monthly fee and a 1% trade fee. This is amazing. Like being able to do all of this from one platform for yourself is going to feel really, really empowering, especially if you're coming from a 401k where you had basically no say in what was going and where, right? So take the power back, right? Move your 401k over to iTrust and you'll find out exactly how good it feels. Link underneath the video, the top link, in fact. Click that sucker and get started today. Goldman Sachs says the Fed will cut rates 3 times this year. Can you say bull run in September, October? I think so. And I'll tell you what, when we're talking about that, I highlighted this yesterday. What does the impact of interest rates do to somebody like Circle? Because they split 50 to 60% of their profits with Coinbase. So you have two things playing negatively against the stablecoin issuers. One, the cutting of interest rates is going to squash their margin. If you're cutting the interest rate, you're also cutting their profit. And if Circle happens to be in a situation where 50 to 60% of what they do make goes out the door to Coinbase, you have another problem for Circle. Then you have a problem with the other exchanges. Why do I want USDC on here when I know know I'm making my competitor Coinbase rich. So these are all really big factors. But yet, I wanted to bring something else up. If we just talk about the idea that the rate could get cut 3 times this year, there's not a lot of year left. And if we get the rate cuts that the president wants, we're going to be at 1% interest rate, which means the margin for profit for private stablecoin issuers is going to be very, very thin. Okay. And that, I believe, is where it puts Ripple and Real USD in a very, 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 very coveted seat, a privileged position. Because they do have a lot of XRP in escrow. And number two, we also know that they're not solely reliant on Real USD to run their business. It is a added revenue, right? It is a added revenue inflow. So this is going to put Ripple in a coveted position to win over other companies and stablecoin issuers who only have the profit margin from digital dollar issuance and staking and the yield and the backing and all of that, right? They don't have the room to handle this. And I think ultimately we get these rate cuts and you're going to see a broader impact over time where these private stablecoin issuers will probably go through the extraction of a lot of private issuers and eventually work down to consolidating in a contraction phase, bringing it all back under one roof. And I'm guessing that roof might be Ripple's Real USD. You can write that down. If I'm wrong, we'll talk about it. And Ripple just put this out. The future of 18.9 trillion in tokenized asset by 2033 depends on a crucial factor, and it's institutional grade custody, ladies and gentlemen. They point out to highlight the 5 key takeaways of the Blockchain Association of Singapore, the BAS there. Custody workshop and technological requirements. They talk about compliance by design, flexible custody models, operational resilience, strong governance, and scaling stablecoin adoption. I read it for you so you don't have to. And the takeaway here that sticks out is exactly what Chad Steingraber highlights here for me as well. It is a prime example of this regulation first approach is Ripple USD, Real USD, a stablecoin issued under New York Trust Company Charter. This framework provides bank level oversight, including requirements for reserve asset segregation, independent audits, and full backing by high-quality liquid assets to maintain a one-to-one peg with the U.S. dollar. That's what we're talking about here. Regulations are required and licenses are there. Green light, go. You better believe it. I love it too. And just for fun, because I know your mind's built like mine. Well, if we were to tokenize all that 18.9 trillion, because Ripple is poised to be in a very, very privileged position to tokenize a lot of the world's assets because of the way they position inside the financial system. And if they get that banking charter, which I imagine they will, you're going to see the majority of tokenization go through them and make their way to the XRP ledger and then disseminate out across the other value protocols. That's how I'm seeing this come together. If Ripple tokenize all 18.9 trillion, this is the price appreciation according to ChatGPT. 2026, $10.40. I don't have a problem with it. 2027, $18. 2028, $31.30. 29 would be $54.20. And 2030 would be $94. And 2031, $118.60. 2032, $149.70. And 2033 would be $189 should we get the entire $18.9 trillion of tokenized assets on the XRP ledger. I don't expect all of it. And it's okay that we don't get all of it. We don't need all of it to be very successful, as you could see from the price breakdown of this speculative guess by ChatGPT and how that would accrue. So we can keep an eye on it, but I just wanted to break it down like, hey, you know where we are today. We're at $3. If we were to see that all make its way to the ledger, here's the incremental speculation of how the price could grow. We'll keep an eye on it and how this goes. However, we need to talk about a very, very critical piece to the puzzle for digital assets to be able to absolutely take off. And it's not the Genius Act and it's not the Clarities Act. Take a listen to this very quickly.
crypto platforms that we were developing, whether it was American Bitcoin, whether it's World Liberty Financial. We didn't get into that because we knew all that much about crypto. We got into it out of necessity because we were getting debanked. There wasn't a person in this city that I couldn't call and get a loan for a real estate project a few short years ago. Then we became Politica, and all of a sudden you're persona non grata. So crypto's the future. To be able to have the legislation to create those guardrails, to be able to keep that industry, this is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and it should be based here in America. America should get the tax benefits of all of that. They should have the based here in America. America should get the tax benefits of all of that.
America should get the tax benefits of all of that, huh? What tax benefits are we talking about there, Don Trump Jr., right? We're talking about these kind of tax benefits?
Saying, a coward, what's the difference between a coward and a hero? And like, well, a hero is a coward that doesn't have any other options. So I guess they have to be a hero, right? So once you see yourself in that situation, then risk begins to invert itself, and you think about the risk of not taking a risk.
Well, and speaking of that, and I think that's so well said. Speaking of that, looking where we are right now, again, stablecoin legislation, some are saying it could be here as soon as April. Some are saying we could have stablecoin legislation, no tax on crypto, a market infrastructure bill, all done by August. I mean, Greg, we know we're looking at October now, and the Genius Act's already signed into law. What's your thoughts here for a second? Because I'm sitting here thinking, if U.S. domiciled assets become no cap gains, which, by the way, as an example, if you're going to be using Solana, ADA, and XRP to make payments, it certainly doesn't make sense to have cap gains on that asset if you want the world to use it in finance, right? But it also does something else in my mind, Greg. It is like the biggest calling card for everyone to come on to those protocols specifically, because they're cap gains free, because you are going to move payments. They are incentivizing the world to understand that these protocols are going to help move the value of the world. Am I seeing this off kilter here?
Well, it certainly makes it much more likely that crypto can be used for payments, because without that, I mean, I worked and built the first crypto debit card.
And notice he didn't tell me no. He's dancing around the idea that, what you're saying makes sense.
The hassle with that was every time you bought a cup of coffee, it was either a capital gain or a capital loss. And, it's an accounting nightmare to drink a cup of coffee. And obviously that's not good for the economy. But come on, if it's just an incidental usage, like for payments, I don't think we should be paying capital gains on all that. It's just an accounting nightmare. And it just basically misunderstands what the use of those tokens is for, which is...
Look, this guy worked at the Federal Reserve, designed the first debit card, and then goes and works at Ripple.
They can be a means of exchange. They're not just there for like a store of value.
I completely agree. And when I think about where we are, the old adage, he who has the gold makes the rules. I heard Chris Giancarlo say one time, he said, he who has the gold makes the rules, but he who controls the payment rails runs the world. And when I think about the idea of doing zero cap gains on those particular U.S. domiciled assets, I start to realize just how important that is to incentivize those value protocols, because everybody's thinking about, I won't have to pay the cap gains on my gain, my assets. But the real power of this is incentivizing the world to get on those protocols, I believe, because that is about control of the world right there. That's my thought on it.
Look, when I worked at the Fed 20 years ago, we had to have a serious debate over whether your bonus miles, your United or American bonus miles, were money. And like that question came up. What if, your miles go up in value or go down in value? Is that a capital gain? Is it a capital loss? And eventually somebody just in the room just had to say, come on, guys, like, don't we have something better to do than like running around? And look, the stuff of overcomplicating human activity with like arcane accounting rules. I mean, give me a break, okay? There is some precedent here for common sense. I know we went through a period where common sense was uncommon, and now we're at a point where maybe rules are uncommon. But I think on these matters, just common sense can prevail.
There you have it right there. Now let's just take a look at this right here. I got to refresh this for a second. But yeah, you look at this. Remember this? We're still waiting for a crypto tax bill for the United States. Will U.S. domiciled digital assets be zero cap gains to encourage mass adoption of U.S. payment rails? Will it be for retail and institutions? Just for institutions and payment providers? Is it just a pipe dream? Or is this the pathway to fair use tax? I don't know the answer. But for me, if we're not moving ultimately to a fair use tax, what's the point of even being digital here? Right? And then there was this announcement at XRP Las Vegas 2025.
Now, Fast Bank. Tell us about Fast Bank.
So I made the decision of what would it be like if we could put the banking industry directly on chain. So you've heard some of the other tokenized asset talks today. So the question is, instead of having like a Circle or a Tether in between, what if US banks put dollars directly on chain, including the XRP ledger? So that would mean that the ledger of record isn't some like old 50-year-old bank core, it's actually the blockchain. And so to do that, had to buy a US bank, and you can imagine, even though I'm ex-Federal Reserve, having worked at Ripple, made some other investments in crypto, it was not an easy lift, but last year we were finally approved. Might have helped that I ran for Congress and was going to make a stink if it didn't happen.
And here in Nevada, right?
Here in Nevada in the 2nd District. We purchased Vast Bank, OCC, nationally chartered Fed holding company, and we have one purpose, which is to put the US dollar on chain. And what that means is these are FDIC insured US dollars, complete with Reg E chargeback protections, means if you get robbed, you get your money back, running on chain. And in particular, under the new administration with open banking and fair access, those dollars can be held by every person all around the world. So that means essentially everybody in the world has a US dollar deposit account, FDIC insured. So I'd ask you a question. You've heard about the new 5% tax. If you're on this ledger and you're sending money from, you're here under one visa and you're sending it back home to your mom, if that money never leaves being a dollar, never leaves the country, never even leaves the bank, is that a remittance?
Hello.
I don't think so. I think in this new world, if everything is on ledger, including the XRP ledger, and it's just moving on ledger, what does it mean anymore to move money from one country to another? It doesn't really happen. It just all stays on ledger. And it's the XRP ledger that made that possible all the way back in 2012. That's really why I joined Ripple to this day. And so buying a bank and putting US dollars on, we've also made an investment in the Bank of London, and I'm closing a bank deal in Europe soon. So that means dollars, pounds, and euros running 24/7 bank money on chain.
On chain, on the XRP ledger.
On the XRP ledger.
And he says there will be others too. But nonetheless, now you see the plan taking shape. It is to get the G20, G7, G20 largest economies of the world representing on the XRP ledger, and we'll be moving money around so fast and so quickly for free. That's what he just said. And then we have this, an XRP spot ETF approval will hit harder because it just got delayed. SEC pushes spot XRP ETF decisions into October final deadlines. This is Grayscale, 21 shares, and Canary Capital. I say this, XRP spot ETF approval will hit harder knowing that the Clarity Act should be passed and signed into law in October. Let's hope the taxes for crypto as well. So that, I believe, sets up the stage for one hell of a crypto launch pad in October. Right here, the ultimate goal, unknown DLT says, Ripple will be introduced at the Fed and will make XRP a global reserve currency. This has already been decided. Ripple has applied for a Fed master account. Don't forget. XRP is about to melt faces. It's not an ordinary asset. It's infrastructure. And that's exactly right. It is infrastructure. And as Greg Kidd just explained here, it is infrastructure that puts the entire banking industry direct on chain, and not just here domestically, but around the world, and allows everyone to move money back and forth at no cost. That's what we're talking about. That's the ultimate goal. But where are we today? We're ranging between $2.65 and $3.65, says Egg Red Crypto. And he says, there's your noise channel. And until we get above that or close above the 330 mark, we're not back into a bullish scenario. We're just kind of going sideways, banging back and forth between a dollar range there. So that's where we are. That helps me. You know, I don't know if it helps you guys, but it helps me to know that what we're witnessing here. Plus, when I couple it along with the fact that Congress is on recess, obviously the market's going to, you know, in August, September, usually the doldrums of those 2 months, right? So we'll see what happens when we come out of here, but there's a lot on the table waiting to be done as soon as they make their way back. And here, a monthly bloody body, bloody, it's been bloody out here, but a monthly body candle close above $3.30 will serve as our next launch pad, activating the measured moves ahead. Key reminder, be smart and be patient. Let's stay steady and strong. Together we rise, and soon we shall fly. And I agree too, and I think it's that fundamental news that we're waiting on to send us all into the stratosphere. And until we do, it's not financial advice from me or anyone else. We're going into the Freedom Zone. You could join us too. Oh boy, they're coming after the food. They're coming after our food. It's really bad. I hope you will join us in the Freedom Zone. Great way to support the channel. Get all your daily videos with 0 Google ads and the extra content we're about to jump into as well. Come on in. All right.